Hey, welcome to Ross's Game Dungeon. Today we're looking at Quadralien. This is, an action puzzle game? Normally I don't think those flavors go together so well, but this game does what it wants. And I like to say it's refreshing having a title where there is no confusion at all. To this day, I still get Alien Carnage mixed up with Alien Rampage, and it doesn't help that we have an Alien Rage to add to the mix. The real tragedy here is Alien Carnage, since that used to be named Halloween Harry. That name was perfect. You change a name like that, there's nowhere to go but down. But Quadrillion, nobody's mixing that up with anything. Okay, I guess you can maybe mix this up with the Alien Quadrilogy, but you know what? They've made more Alien movies since that came out, so we don't really have to worry about that anymore. So back to the game, we are hit with really blippy PC speaker music and a giant space station, or space something. And you know what? I have an award already. One Track Wonder. This game has exactly one music track, and it's awesome. This is some of the best PC speaker music I've heard. I'm almost imagining we're transmitting this as Morse code into space. I don't know what SETI is beaming out into space, but we should put this in there. So if we hop right in, we get our exposed circuit board, some numbers, some bars where I'm not sure what's happening. I can move the thing around. We've got some pipes and, yeah, there we go. That's something. This is one of those games where you can figure out some things to give you the illusion that you can play through this, but not enough. Let's click on the information block. A92F, guys. Remember that. Right there. Legends. Mega Repeller. Magnetic Track. Earthing Box. Huh. Okay, environment. Instrument monitoring. Okay. Consoles. Shoots. Alright, let's try status. Pushing is 6 joules per minute, guys. And this is what classic PC gaming is. This right here. If you ever wonder what some of the big differences are between old PC games and old console games, you're looking at it. So, hey, let's go back to the music. One of the nice things about old DOS games is sometimes there were Amiga copies of the same games also. So check it out. Here is the Amiga version of the main song. That is so much better. This really shines now. And for once, the graphics are not obviously better. Usually the Amiga copies always look better because they have better hardware, but not here. Okay, fine, our circuit board is a little more detailed and it's all flashy, but I'm not sure I would call this an upgrade. I mean, do you really want this pulsating the entire time you're playing? If you look at it, it just kind of, yeah, so we're gonna be playing the DOS version. I'll just keep the rad music. So what are we doing? I guess it is time to consult the manual. And we have a backstory. This reads like I picked up a book and just started midway into it. You know the quantum power beams Astra sends out? They go in all directions, wherever there's a deep space machine that needs energy. It looks like the beams have taken Z-Wave traffic. I can tell whoever wrote this had some aspirations here. So, my interpretation of this is it's the year 2057, we have a space base out near Jupiter called Astra, and the Quadrillions, an alien race I think, have invaded and hijacked its computer system and are causing a nuclear meltdown. So our job is to send some drones in to mop this all up and put a lid on it. Cool. And that artwork on the box cover is sweet. I need a framed poster of this. So we want to clean up all these radioactive spills and concentrations. We can hit a button to see where the radiation is active if our drone has a Geiger counter. More on that in a minute. The manual also explains all these bars. The most important one to know about is temperature, right here. If that rises to the top, then that's it, game's over. That means there's a full nuclear meltdown, the station's done. So this is a soft timer on everything. You can take your time and try to figure out your plan of action, but the station temperature is not gonna wait on you. It's gonna keep rising. Now you can mitigate this if you find cooling barrels and shove them down the utility chutes here, but that doesn't solve the problem, it just buys you time. That's what this game is all about, buying time. Now, I mentioned the robots earlier. This game decided it wasn't complex enough, and you get to pick between a roster of droids, like it's a fighting game or something. This matters because they each have different stats. See, some of these numbers are your droid's battery power, which drains as you move, or God forbid, you fire a laser. And you always need to keep an eye on your droid power, because if you don't, that's it. You're just a hunk of metal that can't move. You'll need to periodically recharge your droids at these stations, except those also have a finite charge. And it's not a charge per station. You have one energy pool for everything, and that's it. So if you make a mistake and end up draining a lot of energy, that might come back to haunt you 20 minutes later in a completely different area. So you have to juggle all these different variables while you're figuring out the puzzles. And while that may sound simple, it's not. I mean, first off, I cannot emphasize this enough. The temperature is rising. It is always rising. Think you found a way to clean up a bunch of radiation? Great, good job. The core's become more compromised while you were doing that. So if you're lucky, you'll maneuver some coolant barrels into the utility chute, but uh-oh, looks like you're running low on energy there, Chief. It's this trifecta of cleaning up radiation, scrounging for power, and above all, keeping that reactor cool, because it keeps on rising. Now you'd think this mix of having different stats on the droids would suit different playstyles, but no, you kind of have to do everything. The all-rounder Jack is probably your best bet, though I like Barney because he can really swallow up the radioactive waste. That's important because you can only hold so much before you're completely irradiated and have to be scrubbed at these stations here.
Wow.
But sometimes in this game, you lose control of the situation, you panic, and that's when you need your lasers. Rambot is your friend then. The ones that look like pills are magnetically charged and are just going to make your life complicated. Wah! So that's the core of the game. You go around cleaning up as much radiation as you can and stave off your inevitable doom with coolant. Now you actually have 6 stages to choose from at a time, kind of like Mega Man, though you wouldn't know that if you just hit enter. See, if you're in a level and you want to switch to another one, you have to press quit. You know, like quit the game. Yeah, that's intuitive. But do not press the escape key. If you press that even once, it ends the whole game and you lose all your progress. Shit. Do not press the escape key. You need to press the quit key, not the escape key. Do you understand? This choice of levels is even more great than it seems because not only can you swap back and forth at any time, but you don't need 100% completion in each level. You just need to clean up enough total radiation to hit the target score. Then you'll receive the access code to the next batch of levels. This is really helpful because that means if one zone looks like a complete nightmare, which it probably is, you can just try to be more thorough in the other levels and avoid it as much as possible. Boy, I wish everything worked like that. A lot of the levels have their own gimmick, like a funky lighting mechanic, or in the fuel depot, lasers will be disabled so you don't blow up the whole damn base, or the level will have higher than usual magnetic fields. Whatever was going on at this space station, they were doing a lot with magnetism. You can't move 5 feet without having to shove these negatively or positively charged units around. Now you might think, so what? But that's because you've never had your droid crushed between 2 charged whatever these things are. If you get sandwiched between these things, your energy will deplete in seconds. Ah! 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 These fields are dangerous and they're everywhere. It doesn't help that the controls are a little finicky too. It's not hard at all to move forward 2 spaces when you only meant to go 1. Causing you to go somewhere you didn't want to, or shove an object where it doesn't belong. It's not horrendous, but it happens often enough that it can add to the paranoia. And just to complicate things a little more, sometimes you get explosives to blow open walls, except you need detonators to use them, which only some of the droids can handle. Additionally, since this is radiation we're cleaning up here, it's not always visible, so sometimes you need to bust out the Geiger counter to see where all of it actually is. Again, assuming your particular droid has the Geiger counter. Thank God the game seems to stop there, because I could see the developer wanting to add in a welding certification course and circuitry bypass simulator into the game just so you start choking on the mechanics. I will say though, while the levels are kind of simplistic graphically, this is one of those games where the longer you play it, the more it starts feeling like its own world. I think it's because it's always a little baffling what I'm looking at, and because of all these layers of mechanics going on here. It kind of sucks you in. But I know what you're thinking. You're thinking, Ross, what the hell? The name of the game is Quadrillion, and you haven't shown us one quadrillion yet. What kind of show is this? Well, prepare yourselves, because they're in here with you too. Behold, the Quadrillions. They definitely look alien. I guess I should have expected them to look like this since they rode in on the quantum power beams. They kind of remind me of that thing on the title screen of Kicks. Yeah, you know Kicks, the old arcade game where you fill in the spaces. Well, as you can see on the title screen, tonight you die! What the hell's going on here? It looks bad. Even the dog's scared. And is that a guy hiding in the manhole down there? I can't tell. To the best of my knowledge, Kicks has no backstory, so what you see is what you get. Some of the appeal of old games is they sure have a lot more mystery about them than newer ones. Well, I imagine the Quadrillions are similar. They're certainly scary enough in the game. They zip around like frenzied insects on a sugar high, and if they come into contact with you, they'll drain your energy like it's nothing. You do not want to mess around with them. If you know you're gonna have to confront them, send in Rambot.
They drew first blood.
Okay, now I don't want to get everybody too excited, so try to restrain yourselves, but I've got to tell you, if you look on the back of the box, we have a special appearance of the Quadrillion mother in the reactor core. Oh yeah, it's on now. So on we go with scrubbing radiation, killing Quadrillions, and trying not to die. This feels like puzzle survival, but you do get to save your game, although it only saves to a floppy disk. This is one of the later games to work on DOSBox too. I remember having to run a floppy drive emulator on my system in order to save my game. I am not going back to real floppies. As we continue onward, because that core temperature is such an omnipresent threat, it's better to go through and practice each zone first, then load your game and do it more efficiently. So the gameplay progression is actually similar to Niet 3. Although this is way more forgiving than that because the game doesn't charge you money to save. You just have to press the S key and pretend you have a floppy drive. I can do that. If you couldn't save, this will be another one of those prison sentence games. But since you can and have passcodes per cluster, it's just a hard slog. For an 80s game, this is downright merciful. But the game likes its cheap tricks too. Look at this. Hey, a coolant barrel. I'll just move this over here and boom! Hit an earthing box, all my energy gone, dead. And if you're wondering if this is the sort of puzzle game where you can make a mistake and screw yourself permanently, yes, it absolutely is. Quadrillion still stands out to me even now. I think because out of all the games I've played, this one most closely resembles my own life. I mean, maybe not literally. I don't have a full roster of droids to pick from, and I've never seen aliens that look like this. But mentally and emotionally, there's no difference at all. Between that temperature gauge, confusing magnetism, panic moments, it's all there. It's hard for me to explain, but I don't need to. You can just play the game and see what it's like to be me. I think I have to give an award for this one. Even if you think you understand things, you don't. Because you can occasionally break through to another layer of reality and oh no, it's happening again!
We've entered the other space!
This game is a long and steady climb, and the farther I go, the more I resent that temperature gauge. It doesn't go down unless you beat all 6 levels, not just 1. You know that saying, it's not a sprint, it's a marathon? Well, that doesn't apply here because it's both. You need to move fast on the short haul and keep it up for the whole duration of the stage you're on. There's not any shortcuts you can take either. Now's a good time to point out that we have another situation like we had in Quarantine. Remember how you can get the next level code once you beat the cluster of levels you're on? Well, those are sequential. That means you can't just punch in the code and skip from level 1 to level 3. You have to do it one level at a time. Well, say you want to skip ahead just to get to the ending. Not gonna happen. If you look up the level codes to this game, every single site on the internet is wrong. Every one of them. They all just copied the same wrong data, and now that may as well be engraved in stone. If you try to enter in this code right here, it will not work. It's wrong. This might explain that, best I can tell, no one's posted the ending to this game. They can't without actually playing through it. This wrong code is a wall. Well, not to worry, we're gonna see it here. I don't need the code. I understand this mess. Well, I understand enough of this mess to wade through it. Or just barely enough of it to keep the station from blowing up until I get the next code. Again, I can really relate to this. Your best being barely good enough. So here is the real code. 016655. Every site posting otherwise never actually played this game. This is how information on the internet works sometimes. Stage 3 ranges from hard and methodical to pure antagonism and is just 10 kinds of brutal. This light puzzle in particular is tormenting. Look at this. That bulb icon means I can light up the entire level, but it is literally impossible to access. You can't even shove another droid in there. It's there purely to taunt the player and make them think they're missing something that they can solve an unsolvable puzzle. While the light stage is the most annoying, because of the damn core temperature, every one of these is an exercise in pain. But again, it is doable. Just practicing each stage until you have it down to a science is pretty much the only way out of this. So, let's head to the final level, the Reactor core. This level is savage. For once, your goal is simple. Shoot the core until you blow it up. But these wires drain your energy in seconds if you're adjacent to them. 1, 2, 3, dead. You have to run by them as fast as you can or shoot them, but of course you can't shoot most of them unless you're right next to them. Ah! Quadrillions! They're in the wires! And to complicate matters, this energy drain means I need to leave Rambot at home because he just doesn't have the battery storage to handle this. Anyway, this level is partially a maze and all pain. I die and die and die. But get ready, because here is the Quadrillion Mother. Yeah, you can clearly see why this is such a big deal they advertised it on the box. Anyway, all we have to do is shoot those 4 red circles and that's it. We've got this. But I die and die and die. This is just a rough level, but after enough lucky breaks, honestly, I take out the final node. Boom! Okay, wait a minute, let's pause this. We don't get an ending screen. Instead, we get an incoming transmission on our HUD. This is lame. This is like getting a text message on your phone as the ending. Even for 88, they could have done better than this. Alright, let's see what it says. Quadrillion threat has been neutralized. Hell yeah. Thanks to you alone. A message of thanks has been received from Earth President Livingstone. And may I take this opportunity to add my own somewhat humble and rather pathetic congratulations to those of your human leader. What? I must, however, inform you that I have been completely reprogrammed by Quadrillion engineers and therefore cannot possibly allow you to return to Earth alive. Sorry. Oh no! They got to Earth President Livingstone! We must not have secured our quantum power beams! Damn it! So that's Quadrillion. You give it all you've got, you beat the game, and your reward is you get stranded in space via text message. I guess there's worse fates than that. We at least seem to have some space infrastructure to hang out in 2057. I guess we'll find out. And on that note, stay tuned for the next episode for a game about saving the Earth. Yeah, that should narrow it down, huh? Ha. Okay, so did you remember that number? Huh? That's right, A92F. Good job.